luckily we both really like talking.
That is very true.
So this is actually going to be probably pretty easy.
Hopefully we won't be overdoing it. No, we're good.
No
problems.
We're totally fine.
Yes.
This is completely acceptable. Welcome to Weird News Weekly with your hosts, Evan Butlier, that's me, and...
Phil Stamper. Stampier.
Stop.
Stampier.
Stop. Okay, my real name's Butler, but it's...
It's
I'd like to
French.
pretend it's French. Whatever.
Or would it be bourgeois?
Bourgeois. It's probably spelled with like a, Beauxtler, whatever.
Or are you Bulgarian? Not Bulgarian. Are you from Belgium? Because Belgium is also a French-speaking language. A French-speaking country.
No, I'm actually pretty darn Irish. I'm
Okay.
Incredibly Irish.
Okay.
So.
That explains some things.
Stop.
I'm not going there.
Stop talking.
I meant more that my family history has some Irishness in it.
Oh,
so
gosh.
I'm understanding and relating.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
The pain.
Irish and German and Cherokee.
Normal stuff.
As it happens.
Normal stuff.
Right.
So, of course, the format for WNW is, of course, we talk about the weird news of the week.
Yes.
And then we just take it from there and see what happens.
So am I the only one who did homework, or did you do homework as well?
I had no idea what I was going into.
Gotcha. So I think for me, as I went through, so just to give you a little bit, I guess, I didn't want to redo what people do with the paranormal stuff, because even though I could be very much in that realm, there's bizarre states, there's like coast to coast AM, like there's stuff that kind of covers the paranormal realm of things.
Yeah.
So I felt like, let's cover like just the weirdness that is life. Like
There's a lot of weirdness.
there's a lot of weird.
Let's go for weirdness that doesn't involve ghosts, aliens, or epic conspiracies.
Right. And I also try to keep away from ridiculous quantities of murder. Like, I thought maybe that might not be a great place to highlight, even though I don't know how far I should go into your own experience, which now is going to leave people going, why are you saying your own experience and mass murder?
Let's not talk about what I do.
Okay. Okay. So,
what's our first story of the day?
So I have realized that you apparently can never be too old to take a bite out of crime.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that's true.
Maybe literally. That, what is it? It takes one person to make a change because that's the only thing that ever has, or something. Isn't that like it? So
some platitude.
Up in Washington, Pennsylvania.
Washington, Pennsylvania.
Washington, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So it's this tiny little burb. I guess it could be a regional suburb of like Pittsburgh.
Did you know that every single state has a Washington like town or village or like township?
I could imagine.
No, that's actually true.
Okay.
Yeah. That is a weird news fact for you.
Washington, the first president.
Yeah.
Had a good impression upon the American people. I could see what
apparently he's on everything.
Right.
Gosh.
Money.
So, in Washington, Pennsylvania.
75-year-old man helped in the arrest of a shoplifting subject, 75 years old, by tackling the suspect, bringing him to the ground, and threatening to break his arm if he escaped.
Oh my gosh.
This gentleman, Charlie Burton, he was a vendor at the Washington Crown Center Mall for a Gun Show, when he saw an officer struggling with a suspect, a 29-year-old, and he decided that he would help the officer and tackled him and threatened to break his arm if he didn't stop struggling.
Wow.
75 years old.
Dude.
I know 25 years old in peak physical condition that would turn the other way.
Yeah, I literally have no friends that would, like, assist in any sort of arrest, because a lot of them, I've got friends that are buff as heck, but they just are timid as all could be.
I almost clotheslined a drunk teenager one time at Universal Studios.
Did you do it on purpose?
Almost. Well, yes, because he actually stole something. I was running from the police, and he ran into me, and I like put my arm out, and I think he saw me starting to come at him, and he moved.
Oh.
I was so disappointed. Police hogtied him. It was hilarious to watch.
They hogtied him?
At Universal Studios. I guess they hog-cuffed him. And they put his hands behind his back, they handcuffed his legs together, picked him up by hands and feet, and dragged him out.
Oh my gosh, that's special. But I gotta say, this 75-year-old man, I mean, honestly, they just don't make him as tough as they used to.
No!
They just do not. Oh my gosh.
So what do you got? Or do you want me to keep going in my pile?
Keep going.
Keep going in my pile.
I like this.
So you might have heard about this lady before. I don't know if you've heard of this situation, because this apparently just happened very recently. So have you heard about this woman that's a serial... basically, she gets on flights... Like, she jumps on flights without, like, buying a ticket or hiding in the wheel well.
Oh, she's a stowaway.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. I kept thinking castaway. It's like my brain is not where it needs to be. So, this woman, Marilyn Hartman, has been arrested several times before for stowawaying? For being a stowaway.
For being a stowaway.
On multiple different flights. So, this time... she got arrested. She is 63 years old.
63.
She got past security and took a flight from Minnesota to Jacksonville, Florida.
Wow.
Now, this is where, she's been caught before. She's made, a stunt out of it before.
Yeah.
She's been hidden in, wheel wells and stuff like this. This time, she somehow got on a flight without a ticket, snuck past security. She lands. Apparently, she then went to the hotel and said that she was somebody else, and got their room.
Oh my gosh.
So apparently she, when she landed, she boarded a shuttle bus, she went to this huge plantation hotel, fibbed her way again, used somebody else's identity basically, so she ended up being arrested after the person for the, who was supposed to be in the hotel room showed up. And was like, this is my space. Hotel security got involved. She ran out of the room. They couldn't find her. At first they couldn't find her. She went through and went into a different room on the ground floor level. It was being renovated, so she broke into another space.
Oh my gosh.
Hid there, was caught again the next day. So this is in Florida. This is in Jacksonville,
Florida.
Florida.
Of course it's Florida.
Right. Why not? Because Florida is... it is America's cesspool. It is.
Oh my gosh! You can't say that. You can't say that on podcast.
I really do.
I have wonderful memories in Florida, and also horrible memories.
Yes,
we have horrible memories.
I have a horrible memory. You slept through the horrible memory.
Let's another podcast another day.
Jeez.
So what? Wow.
So this happened in Florida.
Florida, yeah.
24 hours later.
24 hours later.
She is now found in Los Angeles. Wandering aimlessly through an airport terminal.
What?
So, she once again, what she basically did, the way she got through Los Angeles, was apparently, they don't really know, so they're not accusing her of sneaking onto a flight. They can't find how she did it, so they can't accuse her because they can't find proof. What she has admitted is what she did to get past security was she sort of got with a family and sort of bundled in with them, and as confusion can happen with multiple people at one time in a security gate, she'd use them as the cover to sneak through the gate.
Oh my gosh.
As if she was part of the family and huddled through.
Wow.
So the TSA, the Transportation Security Administration,
of course,
is having a huge investigation about how does she keep doing this. But part of me keeps saying they should hire her and help them build a better security system.
Despite how wonderful it would for them to hire her, I genuinely think that there's probably she has some sort of mental compulsion to do this over and over again.
Do you think it's just the thrill, or do you think...
I think it's a thrill-seeking type thing, sort of like kleptomania. I mean, I'm no psychologist, but there's the obvious thrill of sneaking in and going places you're not supposed to go, and that's in every single preteen, and I'm sure it's in everyone else too.
Right. The interesting thing is, so according to this article, which is from the Huffington Post, the last sentence is, so lawyers have said that Hartman is a loner who has no family or kids, and have requested mental health evaluations in the past. So what's interesting to me is by sort of stating that, I get there's an implication of what you just said. Okay, something's...
It's antisocial behavior.
Right. But then it's also not saying, and they found... ... So it's almost did she go and they were oh yeah, she's fine.
Well, they can't release that.
Right.
That's privacy. That's HIPAA.
Right.
That's that. So, wow. That's wonderful. TSA, thank you for protecting our country and making me get to the airport 3 hours early. You're wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever needed those 3 hours?
Yeah.
You really have?
Yeah, it's called sleep.
Oh, well, that's true. That is true. Well, no, that's where I don't need the 3 hours, because I would rather sleep and get there 1 hour in advance.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
This one isn't much, but a lady in Dolores Gavin in Granite City, Illinois, gets a package from FedEx on her front porch. She goes to open it. There's a live snake inside.
There's a live snake.
A live snake, a baby python. Apparently, somebody stole her credit card and ordered it on her behalf.
Yes.
But then they mailed it to her.
This happens. Yeah, no, it's when you accidentally set the delivery address is the same as the billing address.
Right.
When you're filling it out. And then it'll get shipped to the person's house. And this is actually a huge problem. I have a friend who the same thing happened to him. He continually has strange things like just like jewelry and things sent to his house, and it's just his identity keeps getting stolen. And at a certain point, there's like, what can you do about it?
Right.
And so
change your name, petition for a new social security
But
number.
believe it or not, if something is mailed to your house and it is addressed to you, but somebody else, it's not for you, so some sort of unintentionally ended up being addressed to you and sent to you, you are legally allowed to keep it as a gift, and they can do nothing to compel you to ever relinquish it. It is legally yours. It is a gift.
Good to know.
Yes. Fun fact.
Now, fortunately, in this case, the reptile dealer that sent the snake said, "Okay, I'll give you back a refund. I get what happened." So.
Yeah. Send me back the snake.
Right.
I'm also glad that it was like a pretty harmless, quote unquote, harmless snake.
Right. Can you imagine
like a black mamba?
Right.
What's
this? Yeah. The snake starts.
Oh, I love snakes.
You do love snakes, or you don't?
I do love snakes. I think snakes are fascinating.
This past summer, I went over to a friend's who went over to go work out, and I pull into his driveway, and I see his mom lives in the same place, and I look next door, and I see his mom and like his sister and brother, and like neighbors are out in the neighbor's yard looking at something. Like, what's going on? And I get out of the car, and they're like, "There's a snake," and I'm like, "Oh, okay."
It happens.
9-foot red-tailed boa constrictor.
Oh.
Snake. And they had followed, like they could see the impression in the grass where it had come from. They found, it had, I guess, apparently been under somebody's shed, and it had, like, shed its skin.
Oh my gosh.
It had been there for some time. And they just think somebody must have dumped it, and it just found shelter.
That happens.
Yeah. The family was actually like, now we know why we used to see all these rabbits in the yard, and there's no more rabbits.
Wow. And also where our dog went.
Right.
And where little Jimmy went.
I was just thinking little Jimmy.
Little Jimmy.
And Fluffy.
Fluffy.
Poor Fluffy.
Wow. He's dead.
So I got this article.
What is it?
Specifically for you.
What does that mean? What are you implying?
I'm implying that you have a scientific mind.
I guess.
Have you ever heard of a condition called fetus in fetu?
Yes, I have heard of fetus in fetu.
Would you like to describe fetus in fetu?
Fetus in fetu is a syndrome where it's actually kind of debated whether or not, because there's two pretty much theories on fetus in fetu. One is that it is a fetus, sort of an unborn child.
Mm-hmm.
That is sort of during the pregnancy or what have you, sort of becomes absorbed into the host, its twin.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of never really develops. It's sort of fatally flawed. It doesn't truly, but it doesn't go away. It doesn't get fully absorbed and the individual becomes chimeric. It sort of it's amazing. It becomes a parasite. Mm-hmm. It's just absolutely amazing that a flawed human being can just become a parasite for its more based on its morphology. That's literally insane, and that's pretty much the popularly accepted. That makes for wonderful horror thrillers when there's like an unborn child twin being inside of you. It's the focus of like tons of movies and books and cartoon shows, mm-hmm. and I've seen it in CSI before.
Yes.
But the other theory about fetus in fetu is that it's simply a tumor called a tetratoma. A tetratoma, which is sort of like a very specialized, very malignant, ravenous type tumor that pretty much it's not a twin. It's not it's not a second fetus. It is just a gross sort of fleshy tumor abomination that can have things like hair and teeth and nipples and stuff like that. So what is this article?
Basically, there was recently a baby girl born in Hong Kong.
Uh-huh.
And at first, exactly what you're saying, the baby was born. For whatever reason, they determined they needed to do a scan, and they thought they found 2 tumors inside the belly of this baby.
Uh-huh.
And when they went in, they found 2 small fetuses inside the belly.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
And now I have a print version where I would show you, but on the website where I got this from ABC News, that they had done an ultrasound, and you could see what looked like the formation of a little tiny fetus with a small sign of an umbilical cord. There was a little bit of formation there, and that's a little freaky.
That is. It's incredibly rare.
Yes.
It's an incredibly rare syndrome.
1 in every 500,000 births.
I mean, it happens.
Yes.
It does happen, but it's pretty insane. What I find most insane is the fact that these undeveloped humans, fetuses, what have you, can become parasites. They can live inside another human being and survive for decades in some cases. And that just shows you like what humans on a biological level are capable of.
Yeah.
And which is
And I mean the whole like research around tumors itself is an odd science.
yeah.
I mean, it is a science, but like when you look at things like angiogenesis, that blood helps a tumor form, and that you can take a drug like thalidomide, which is a very for people who know what thalidomide is, like caused serious deformities in the 1900s with women who took it because it was given to like, oh, you're just depressed, honey, and then women would have babies after being on thalidomide and. Horrible deformities.
Yeah, there would be flipper babies.
Yes.
They would be born without the long bones. They would literally attached to their shoulders would be their hands. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't have a radius or an ulna or a humerus, and they wouldn't have the long bones of the legs either. They wouldn't have the tibia, fibia, femur. They would just have straight to the hips. Attached to the hips will be their feet, which is that's a pretty brutal genetic deformity. Well, not even genetic deformity. That is a pretty horrible birth defect.
Mm-hmm.
But, oh my gosh.
And like drugs like that, though, on the other side of it, could potentially prevent the growth of tumors. I shouldn't say prevent. I guess it's more of if you have a tumorous growth, and if a tumor is sending out some kind of genetic signal to say, hey, feed me.
Yes.
And the drug that can stop the creation of new
blood vessels.
Blood vessels, thank you, is thalidomide. Okay, would you do it to save yourself and possibly risk never having children again?
Ugh, these are tough questions, man.
I'm sorry.
Harvest the eggs, get a surrogate mother. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
That's a ton of money.
Yeah.
That's, because these sort of things, thalidomide doesn't always cause flipper babies. Sometimes the babies turn out just fine.
Right.
It's just like genetics. It's chance.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're talking about with the cancers and the growth of new blood vessels,
mm-hmm.
do you know the experiment that was used to discover that? It was actually pretty fascinating.
I knew part of it, so you probably know a little bit more than I do.
All right, so on your eyes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So everybody has eyeballs, and
well,
most. Oh, that's true. I used to wrestle with the guy, but
okay.
Weird news for another day. I love that guy. So when on your eyes you have the whites of your eyes, which is the sclera,
mm-hmm.
and the sclera they have gas exchange. It gets oxygen and releases CO2 through. There's blood vessels in your sclera. That's mm-hmm. why when you like sneeze, you get like a big red vein in your eye, and then it pops, and you freak out. But then there's the iris, which is the lens and all that stuff, and the cornea, which is clear, and that's the only place in the human body of direct gas exchange with the outside world, mm-hmm. which is very fascinating. And so there's no need for blood vessels there. So what they did to discover that tumors sent out these sort of hormones, mm-hmm. I guess they're hormones, internal secretions, to create new blood vessels to feed themselves was that they took rabbits and they cut little tiny pieces of tumor and put them all over the cornea. Inserted them into the cornea, and then suddenly these rabbits started having blood vessels grow out of the sclera, out of the whites of their eyes, over their corneas, and to link up with the tumor and start supplying it with delicious, delicious blood, which is wonderful and weird and scary.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
All over the place.
Oh my gosh.
Well, kind of connected to that, my sister-in-law, who I will not name,
but not here, never.
Right. I mean, she's been part of my family for a very long time.
Yeah.
And at the age of about, I'm trying to think, 25, 26, she developed, she had concerns about her breasts. She felt something was wrong. She went to a doctor. The doctor, did test. Oh, no, you're fine. Well, a month or so passes, and she's like, something is not right. Went back, and the doctor was like, oh, I wrote down that I needed to move your file towards, there's like a committee in the county to talk about cancer cases. Oh, I meant to put this forward to the committee to talk about and never moved it forward. Oh crap, let's move forward. So like when you talked about harvesting of eggs and fertilization, all that stuff before a treatment potentially, they were like, oh, we can't do that because your cancer has advanced now and we don't have time.
That sounds like gross negligence.
It does. Here's where it gets very odd.
No,
Okay.
not odd. Would you say that it gets weird?
Whoa!
Oh my gosh, you gotta stick that in there.
Yeah, we gotta be weird. You gotta be weird.
What?
I'm weird too.
We
are weird.
This is week. This is Weird News Weekly.
Oh. You were doing the opposite way.
I weekly weird news.
Yes. We're gonna we're gonna messes up the WWN.
We'll settle eventually. Get to your story. Come on. What's up?
Her doctor. So again, we were all thinking the same thing. Like, what did you do, dude? Like, you could have caused serious problems. So they're moving finally going towards surgery. She was gonna have the surgery in August. Late June, early July hits. Her doctor, and part of this cancer team of doctors, his wife is also a doctor and also on this cancer team.
Cancer Team 6.
Yes. They go whitewater rafting in Colorado. He falls off the raft and drowns and dies.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was kind of like, in that moment of everybody's all upset, like, this doctor, shake your fist, and, he died in a horrible way.
Yeah. Drowning is pretty terrifying.
Right.
Having drowned several times myself, I can say that's pretty terrifying.
Yes.
That's another story for another day.
Yes. I only had one. Unfortunate not getting to the surface in that moment. But yeah, I mean, that, to me, I was like, oh, that's weird. I've had people directly tell me, well, that's karma. And I don't know if I really want to go there. Just very interestingly, coincidentally timed.
He, quote unquote, died.
Yes.
End quote.
He's living under an assumed name in Colorado.
It happens.
He's now a marijuana dealer.
Believe it or not, it happens. People fake their own deaths for insurance all the time. One that I remember that one of my friends was telling me about that he had to investigate was a man claimed to, his family claimed that they were doing life and boat insurance.
Okay.
And they had the family boat, and apparently the male figure in the family, the father, I guess, went out on the boat, and the boat exploded. It was a very unfortunate accident with like the gasoline and like a loose spark plug or something like that. And the entire boat exploded. And no remains of this man was ever found. And he died at sea. And they, tried to collect on the money and proceeded very far down the line of collecting the money until he turned out to be alive. And it turns out it was a sabotage. He blew up his own boat and tried to frame his own death to collect.
Did he try to, I guess unintentionally or maybe intentionally, was it a frame of trying to also frame a family member for the explosion?
Nope. It was,
accident death.
It was a quote unquote boating accident.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is not movie stuff. This is like, this legitimately happens.
Well, I guess that leads to a question, is some of the craziness of weird crime, weird incidents, do you think it's a reflection of, well, I'm imitating what I saw in a movie? Or do you think it's more like just people being people, and now there just happens to be more coverage of people being people?
I mean, honestly, yeah, we're more in touch with everything that goes on now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back in the day, you know, they didn't know the Civil War had ended for like 5 years or something like that.
Right.
And stuff like that, but nowadays it's like, oh my gosh, somebody on one side of the planet made a funny video. Let's all talk about it. And then it's on CNN.
Yeah.
And that just happens. So as to whether or not all this weird crime is, if it's influenced by other people,
Mm-hmm.
or if it's just, it was always sort of there and it's now coming to light. It's probably both. It's honestly probably both.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for every weird story that gets reported, there's probably 50 that don't. They just
Very
don't
true.
You know, they just end up in some backwoods, you know, local newspaper on page 6 and nobody ever sees it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes for fun, I like to go through old local newspapers and read about them, and I'm just like, things were different and strange back in the day. But it's also, it's sort of like, you know, I've experienced nostalgia for an era past. It's honestly, it's a trip. If you ever get a chance, go to like a library,
Mm-hmm.
dig up some like newspaper clips from like the 20s or the 30s or the 40s or the 50s, and just read it.
Yeah.
And like, life was different. Life was genuinely different. People had different ways of doing things and just different attitudes.
Not even as far as that. I can think, I used to compete in judo, and I was at training one night, and this guy walks in, older guy, much older guy, and he starts talking about, he used to coach like youth wrestling in the county, and used to compete in judo himself years and years and years and years ago, and he had this clipping from the county paper, and it's him inside of a wrestling ring with a bear, a live bear from our county.
Wow.
And he toured with this bear, and they were like, well, we had to like take his claws out and all these things, and there was a trainer there in case the bear like went nuts, and
Yeah.
they would have people come up and pay to wrestle the bear.
Oh my gosh.
And they were like, most people lost. Like, the bear just, like, pushed them down, and, like, they were done. And I'm like, that's so very recent. I mean, he said, I think that was in the 70s.
Yeah.
Was doing that. I'm like, that's not too long ago if you think about it.
Wow. That's pretty intense. You can't really do that anymore, you know, wrestle bears.
Right.
I
I actually know a pro wrestling company that advertised a match with a live bear, and it finally was a dude under a wrestling mask that was a bear.
That's lame.
Yes, it was.
That is.
They tried to make it as comedic as possible when they finally did it. It still was like, oh, look what you did there.
Congratulations.
But then they, subsequent years, like in the anniversary of that event, advertised it again, but by then everybody got
Yeah, that
it
was fake.
the joke, and then it became a quote-unquote thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wrestling is weird, too.
Wrestling is a strange world.
Yes.
Wrestling is a weird world. We should go there one day.
We really should.
Oh my gosh.
That's a whole ball of wax.
Oh my gosh. I think there should be a video component to these.
You know that's
Weird
still a
news.
world I exist in, and I need to be very careful.
Dude, it's weird.
I mean, it is weird.
There should be a level of self-awareness to
Right.
just how strange it is.
I have a friend out in Winchester who does some videography and wanted to do an independent film, and he's like, I really want to focus on people in wrestling who are in wrestling, like are in the business. They understand what wrestling is, but then like they don't get that they're not moving on from the 10 mile away from their home wrestling promotion, and like they're not moving on to the WWE. So he like wanted the people who just were like semi-oblivious. And I'm like, I have to kind of work with some of these people. Like,
Wow.
This might not be a good thing to do.
So the people that are, you know, like big fish in tiny, tiny, tiny bowls.
Yes.
And have yet to leave
You know
the castle.
The Rob Lowe commercial, the cable one, where it's like, hi, I'm Rob Lowe, and then it's like all the different Rob Lowe's.
Yeah.
And the one is like, I'm high school.
Peaked in high school, Rob Lowe.
Yes. That is very much some of those guys.
I can believe that.
Actually, an odd wrestling story. Lou Thesz. Now, Lou Thesz has passed, but I have this autobiography, and he basically
What is that,
wrestled...
Luthez?
Lou Thesz.
How do you spell that?
Thesz.
Oh.
He passed away, I think, in the late 90s. Wrestled over a course of 8 decades.
8 decades.
8 decades.
Oh my gosh.
And
this man was ancient.
Yes. And he had an autobiography that when you sit back and read, you just sit there and you just shake your head like this, I can't even begin to comprehend. And in the day, so before there was televised wrestling events, wrestling was a little bit more geographical region based.
Yeah.
So like there was sort of this area in Texas and the Southeast and the Mid-Atlantic. And really it was sort of like you build up in one area and then another area might bring you in and then you sort of stayed in that area and built up and then, oh, well the old area kind of wanted you back because you were a thing and like, it was just sort of a different atmosphere. So he tells the story, he was younger in wrestling and he was traveling with a veteran and they go up to this different territory. I think they said in Kentucky.
Uh-huh.
And he was with this veteran and the veteran was supposed to wrestle a guy just out of high school. 18, 19 years old. I peaked in high school guy, like I was the captain of the football team, and was told, you need to make this 18, 19-year-old kid look good. He's the hometown hero. Like, he needs to be the one who walks out of here with the crowd cheering behind him. Yeah. And the veteran was very mad that he was being dictated that he needed to do that, especially against a kid who was just sort of starting in wrestling.
Yeah.
So they start wrestling, and he goes up to him, this veteran, and double underhooks his arm, so like the kid's arms are straight out. The guy wraps around his arms, sort of underneath where his elbows are, so he captures the kid's hands like underneath his armpits, has his hands underneath the kid's elbows, and pulls up and breaks the kid's arms.
Oh my gosh.
This is in a day before antibiotics. The kid developed gangrene and they had to amputate both of his arms. This is in the Lou Thesz autobiography book.
Oh my gosh.
18-year-old kid. And I'm like, oh my God. That's a different age and time.
That's terrifying.
That is.
Wow.
Yeah. But I guess, there's that little horrible part of my brain that could be like, that 18-year-old kid, like, yeah, I wrestled and I lost both my arms. I don't know if that's a badge of honor or like.
I want to find what happened to this person after this.
Yes.
And I don't know, give him a hug, make sure he's okay.
I know.
He's probably dead.
Very likely.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is a tragic story.
It is, but it's weird.
That is literally the definition of weird.
Yes.
So what you're saying is that back in the day, American cultural folk icons were strange in themselves and are sort of, they aren't counterculture or underground culture. They're just honestly not discovered. They're weird. They're out there.
Yeah.
But nobody even knows to start looking for these types of things, to really dig in and find weird news.
But that's why we're here.
That is why we're here.
See? It makes sense in a weird way.
Oh my gosh.
You see what I did?
I know. I'm literally blind and deaf. I am incapable.
So I have a little humor then, since the other one was a little more like, ah.
Soul breaking? Yes.
Yes. So yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Oh my gosh.
I feel bad because I'm almost like, that's a thing that happened. Have I heard?
Well, it is a thing that happened.
Right.
I've seen some pretty horrible things.
Yeah.
We'll have to do a show on wrestling at one point.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my gosh.
So, a city in California, the city of Hayward, which actually I know about because of wrestling.
Hayward, California.
Hayward, California. It's a northern California city.
Uh-huh.
And every roadway has a speed limit.
Yeah.
Everybody does not pay attention to the speed limit.
Yep.
Now everybody's texting or doing what else.
What was that? I'm texting. I couldn't.
See. You're trying to pay attention to me. I'm 2 feet from you. So Hayward has decided we need a different kind of sign to get through to people to slow down or to get off their phones. So here's an example of some of the signs they have now put up on some of their streets. 35? It's a speed limit, not a suggestion. Heads up! Cross the street, then update Facebook.
Wow.
Downhill, use eyes, brakes, brain.
So these are on, like, traffic signs?
These are on traffic signs along the street, not like billboard signs. They are the signs along the street.
Wow.
I remember, this was my bad. I went to Canada. I have some friends up in Quebec. And we were driving through this neighborhood. And I just didn't see the stop signs in this neighborhood. Like, it was sort of cars were parked along the side of the street. There was a very wide sidewalk, and then you had the signs. So my brain didn't perceive them. They were just so far away from the road.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, they are stop signs. They were the octagonal red sign with the word arrête on them, which means stop in French.
Oh.
And I knew it said stop in French, and I just couldn't perceive in my brain as I'm driving, that's a stop sign and I need to stop. And I remember the guy in the passenger seat was like, you see that sign? That red sign that looks like a stop sign that it says arrête? Well, that means stop. And you need to stop. It's a stop sign.
Where was this again?
This is in Quebec.
Oh my gosh. Of course.
In Canada.
Oh, no, not in Canada. In Quebec.
No, and it's not Quebec. It's Quebec.
Implying I care.
Very true.
Fun fact, I don't.
Right. Maybe they should secede from Canada and become the 51st state of the United States.
I don't want them either. Oh my gosh. So you're running all these stop signs and breaking all the rules of Quebec.
Yes.
Wow.
Quebec. Every time I say that, I don't even realize I say it anymore, and now...
Quebecois.
Right. Right, exactly. So, they call it's Quebec, but you can be Quebecois. So it's not, you're not Quebecois, you're Quebecois.
Quebecois.
Right. And, yeah. Quebecois French is very different than France French. It's very different than, like, New Orleans French.
So has this become the Let's Talk Smack about Quebec Power Hour?
If you have a weird news item about Quebec...
Quebec, that's the weird news.
The two things I can think of from when I was up there, one was I was going to a wrestling event. You're going to find out that sort of is a part of my life. I'm on this bridge, and the bridge it's a hydroelectric dam. So on one side you have the water that is almost to the height of the dam.
Uh-huh.
On the other side you have the giant drop off because it's feeding it a turbine.
Yeah.
So it's the end of winter, and I look over, and there is. I don't mean like a chunk of ice, like, oh, look, it's floating in the water and it's coming towards the bridge. I mean all the ice that is bundled up and collected and turned on its side and then refroze and turned more and refroze, that is higher than your car on the roadway coming at you on the side of the bridge.
Wow.
That was it. That was an intense moment for me because it hit while I was on the bridge. And it's like, you feel it. You feel the impact. Traffic doesn't slow down or stop. As a matter of fact, I know I sped up.
I will never experience that in my lifetime, and I'm glad I didn't.
You want to come to Quebec?
No. No. I had a friend that always tried to drag me up to Canada. She went to school up there.
Okay.
She was like, oh my god, Canada's so great. Come up here. I'm like, no. No thanks. I appreciate the offer, but
right.
A, that's really far. B, it's really far. C, no.
Right. For me, for a while, because I had a lot of friends up there, especially in like Montreal.
Yeah,
and Montreal is
that's where she was.
Yeah.
She was in Montreal,
and that's a very even though it's in Quebec, it's very different than Quebec City area.
Yeah,
because there's a little bit more of the English influence there.
You can't say that. You can't say that on air. We're gonna get censored
from in Canada. Not Canada, but in Quebec.
Yes.
Quebec,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. But I have friends, and there are still, like, in the Montreal area, there are entire English-speaking communities with no French at all.
Of course.
And then there's the opposite. There's the totally French-speaking community, too. And I remember we were going down the street. The same guy who was like, you need to stop it. There's those signs that look like stop signs. Those are stop signs. We're in the car, and we're going through the city, and he's like, oh, this is this historic building. This is like our town hall. And, oh, do you see that indentation in the building? That's a cannonball. And Quebec tried to secede from Canada and all this stuff. And I'm like, thinking like, historic. I'm learning history. It's a history lesson about Quebec. Okay, when did this happen? In my brain, thinking American history style. Okay, 1700s, 1800s. Oh, like 8 years ago.
What?
It's like, wait a minute. There's an impression of a cannonball in the side of a building. They're like, yeah, they tried to marched down the street to try to secede, and they started firing weapons, and apparently somebody had a cannon.
It's not
so
okay.
8 years ago was also 6 years ago, so roughly 14 years ago. So early part of the 2000s, people were in the street of Montreal firing cannons.
That is some weird news.
Yes.
Weird News Canada.
Yes.
Which is the of course the stellar sort of spin-off podcast that will eventually happen. that'll end up becoming, bigger and more well known than this one.
Weird News Weekly Canada, eh?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I have Canadians. I will literally have Canadians listening to this.
I do too, and I'm sorry, Carter Mason and Andrew Stott and my other Canadian friends.
I'm sorry, Chad and Curtis,
Right.
but Canada.
Right.
Oh my gosh, Canada.
If Canada was south, if Canada was in where Mexico is, I probably would go. It's warmer then.
I've been to Mexico. And,
I don't want to go to Mexico though.
The problem with Mexico is that there are places in Mexico where it just gets oppressively hot. It is just ludicrously hot down there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, how do people live here? How do plants live here?
Right.
And it's genuinely just terrifying and awful. Oh my gosh.
Well, there's also the whole thing about, the roving drug cartels.
We can't talk about that.
I'm not going to go there. That's all I had to say, and I'm done.
Let's not talk
I
about
like my fingers and toes and face
Oh my gosh.
on my body.
Oh my gosh. God.
Those are weird stories in themselves.
Let's not.
Yeah.
That is some weird stories that we're not going to cover.
We're going to move away from those.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I know, so did you hear about the explosion in the Ukraine this past week?
Yes, I did.
Did you see the video?
I did not see the video.
So, and I will say when I first heard it and there was questions of a nuclear bomb in the Ukraine, I'm like, okay, this is, some kind of hoaxy video, let me watch it. And yeah, there was a mushroom cloud, but right away there was, to me at least when I first saw it, I'm like, not an atomic bomb. Like, it wasn't like the videos we've seen of atomic bombs growing up, those black and white videos, or even some of the colored ones that exist. It just didn't feel like it was the bigness, the brightness, the intensity. But still big enough to set off a mushroom cloud.
That is not okay.
And so there was this whole, no major news agency is covering it, except RT, which is the Russian news agency.
What?
And to me, I'm like, well, wait a minute. If this is a conflict that's involving Russia and Ukraine, should the Russian news agency that don't quote me, but I think they're state run.
Yes.
I'm surprised that they might cover that because that could have a horrible
Russian
negative backlash.
Russian media news is run by the state.
So I guess they're trying to say that it was rebels in the Ukraine who shot towards this chemical plant that set off this huge, gigantic explosion.
Oh my gosh.
And you can even, it's so weird when you see this explosion, and the videos are there. You look up Ukraine explosion, maybe nuclear ?
Apparently, this is what the quote unquote news is reporting. Was that it was pro-government forces, Ukrainian pro-government, pro-Ukrainian forces bombed a rebel-held chemical plant.
Yes.
And so I can see why the Russians are reporting it if they're saying that look what the Ukrainians are doing when they're bombing, the people, the People's Republic,
right?
And trying to separate and this is how they treat their rebels. So I understand that now, but it is strange that I saw this as a little blip on the feed of my Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. I have friends from Ukraine. Some of them are in Ukraine right now. I have very, very close friends from Ukraine. And this is honestly a problem. This is genuinely a problem that is not, this is weird and very, very true, but it's genuinely being downplayed by a lot of Western media. You literally had Russia come in and take over part of Ukraine.
Yes.
There's no pussyfooting about it and saying, oh, rebels, separatists. No.
They came in and,
Yeah. There's the amount of evidence that says that these Russian-backed rebels are mostly Russians is just ludicrous.
Yeah.
Because they have, I believe I saw an article about how some Ukrainian officials came forward saying we have Russian military IDs, we have Russian, we have proof that they're here.
Yeah.
And just nobody cares.
Well, when they came in and took over the city at first, they told the military, come work, basically take off your uniform, come work for us.
Oh,
and they did because it's sort of well, I guess you're in charge. Are you in charge? It seemed to be mass confusion and understanding of, wait a minute, whose city is this? And it seems to be that's how Russia has played it is, we're going to feed off this confusion. We're not going to even really address that we're in a conflict. We're just going to kind of be we're here, so by the time things start moving, it's well, look, we've established the military. Oh, look, but it's this guy who's the part of our military who lives here. We didn't make him. We offered him or just said, no, he's part of our military.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because I have also friends from the Ukraine, but I don't have many other friends who are from that area of the world. And I know that there are other countries that are bordering Russia that are saying the same thing is happening. We're under attack, we're under assault. Russia's trying to expand back into our country, and we don't want them. And there is zero press about it.
You can't make a talking point out of this.
Right.
This is literally the U.S. On a military axis at least is completely focused on ISIS.
Yes.
Or as Obama likes to say, ISIL. But, the Islamic State. And just today, there's Obama asked for the authorization to use military force against the terrorists, quote unquote. No ground troops and a 3-year, it'll all get done in 3 years.
Right.
And you can't make a talking point. It is political suicide to talk about doing anything other than the occasional economic sanction against Russia.
Right.
You can't go anywhere with that. It's just, it's bad.
It's just, you hit me with like 3 things at once because my brain's also going like the whole thing with Russia and then Putin going on the news like, I don't have any interest in expanding our territory to ISIS, that whole debacle.
Oh my gosh. This suddenly went from weird news to very, very real news.
Right, really hard
incredibly
real news. Right.
Asking the hard questions. Right. Weird news.
Well, and I don't understand. So YouTube and I find this a very interesting stance. So YouTube, YouTube is where you go to watch the pretty kittens. It's where you go to watch maybe an interview with somebody that you really like. It's where you go to watch funny little news things.
This is where you go to upload your weird news podcasts.
Exactly. Or whatever random entertainment choice of your perusing.
Thanks for listening, guys. If you've gotten this far, make sure to send us an email saying that you got this far.
Right. And then send us maybe your weird news.
We'll get to that at the end.
Yes. But YouTube will post videos of terrorist executions and bombings.
Well, it's not YouTube that's posting them.
Well, correct. You're right. Right. Users are posting them. YouTube's allowing it to remain. And when people complain like this is horribly graphic, this is whatever, their response is no. This is happening. This is news.
It is news.
This is coverage and real. This is not like, you and me make a horror movie and we're being horribly violent and images depicting certain kinds of violence. This is real life, what's happening kinds of violence. It needs to be shown. And so for me, that's my language interpretation of YouTube. I shouldn't say that's exactly what YouTube is saying.
They're definitely not saying that.
Right. But that's how I interpret it, is if you're saying, well, no, we're going to leave it there because it is accurate and factual.
Oh man.
I'm like, oh wow. But I can't remember how I think I was looking for something for Halloween and came across not a live feed, but a hanging.
Happens.
Yeah.
Happens.
I was like, oh no. Oh no. So, and it's there. It's so right there.
Oh my gosh. That's just, I don't even know. It's a very complicated, situation.
Yes.
All of it is. The world is.
Yes.
And that's the weirdest thing of all. It's like, right. What is going on?
And I know we got real. For me, I like the fun. I'll admit, I'm a 10-year-old. I love the fun news. I love the stuff that's a little weird and wacky. But I don't forget the other stuff happens. Because you can't.
Yeah.
You shouldn't, really.
Yeah, well, yeah, we can just, talk about strange things and how Florida's a wonderful place. But in the end, you sort of have to bring it all home.
Yes.
And that's the weirdest thing of all is just like the level of sincerity which we have to deal with weird news.
Right.
And I'm completely okay.
I'm going to throw you a weird news fact.
Send it my way. What's up?
So, I won't say why I'm going to share this fact with you, though you will understand.
Oh no.
So, so there is an institution in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Yes.
Known as the University of Mary Washington. And
I've heard of this place.
Yes. And before it was the University of Mary Washington, it was Mary Washington College.
Yes.
And there was a transition in roughly 2005-ish to change the name of the college. That it had grown larger than being a college, it should be a university.
Yes.
Just to the distinction, a university contains many colleges inside of it. A college is just a college. So they had grown to the size where they were going to have many different colleges and schools inside of its entity.
Yes.
And they were like, well, before we just go University of Mary Washington, maybe we should research and look up other names.
Okay.
One of the names they came up with as an option, the University of the Golden Triangle. I kid you not. University of the Golden Triangle. I think University of Mary Washington was a much better choice. I do.
I'm genuinely speechless.
Yes.
I'm genuinely speechless.
Yes. You don't have anything to say.
You got me. You got me.
Evan Butler, have you been out-weirded?
You win. You win today. You're the winner.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
But we do want to hear from you. If you have made it through this far, I think you are deserving to become part of this grouping. And we need to hear your stories.
Please. If you have some weird news, hit us up.
So what I will do is, as we are talking now, we do not have an active email account. I will go in and create an active email account.
Let's just pretend that we have an active email account.
Right. So what I was going to say was, I will then secretly come back and record over.
Just put it in the description.
Yes, I can do that. So read the description about how you can submit your own weird news.
Yes, and we will report about it. We will add wonderful commentary. We will add interesting insight and horribly extrajudicial judgments to it.
Yes.
And and we'll take it from there.
I almost want to create topics like find the weirdest weird crime story and have a competition.
Well, this is the first time.
Yes.
So let's just throw it out there and see if anyone has anything
Very true.
to say about weird news, about anything at all.
And then we'll go from there.
We will.
All right.
And we love feedback. If you wanna tell us how we're doing.
First time we've done this.
If you just want to leave a whole bunch of expletives and racial epithets in the comments for the YouTube channel, that's par for the course.
Please don't put your racial epithets.
Welcome to YouTube.
That's true. I should know that by now.
Oh wait, I know that by now. Golly day.
Well, thank you everybody for listening and appreciate it.
Yes, and this is Evan Butler signing off.
And Phil Stamper, and we'll see you next time on Weird News Weekly.